Hi, it's Sonia and welcome back to my art channel. I'm going to start this video with just quickly going over some work I've done recently. Not all of it, but just a few pieces what I have to hand. And yeah, one quite helpful find that I purchased recently. And then also there's going to be two process videos that I'm going to talk over. And my topic is going to be how to keep a sketchbook. But yeah, the processes are sped up. I thought it's a good way for you to draw, do your art, because obviously you can just flick up, and it does show a couple of processes from start to finish. Okay, so quickly I just wanted to share, I bet you a lot of you will already have this device. I didn't really know about it. It's a metal tube squeezer, because I had been just by hand squeezing out paint from tubes, and sometimes it was a bit tricky, and I was wondering, was I getting everything out? Because I want to, I'm really pleased I got back into gouache recently, and I want to use my good stuff, but yeah, just make sure I'm not wasting any. So this tube squeezer has been really great, because it really, gets hopefully gets most of the paint out. You can then also, with dried paint, I like to sometimes cut and open them up to make sure you use up all your paint. But that was just a handy device. I assume that's the technical name for it, paint squeezer. I can't remember, but it's a metal one I felt was best and be probably the most long wearing. I think it was $10, and you use it for toothpaste, and probably, though you shouldn't get it contaminating food products, I assume you can use it on all sorts. Well, obviously you can use it on all sorts of different tubes. So that was just something rather fun. And then I thought, let's have a quick look before I go over to the voiceover on how to keep a sketchbook at some art. So yeah, I've been having, it's been a great distraction, art at the moment, for a number of different reasons. I can't remember what I've shown you last week, but I'm pretty sure that, I've been doing sketchbook tours, haven't I? So anyway, this is my loose sketchbook, sort of anything goes, I guess. But I really, as you can see, I've got into gouache. This was a fun exercise. This was just when I was in here at my desk, drawing things very loosely that I remembered from the kitchen table that morning, and I wanted to sort of maybe draw, because it's drawn from memory, it was going to be quite loose and not detailed. So I dehydrated some old citrus fruit, and to maybe make decorations out of. So I was sort of drawing that. That's meant to be, I believe, a pomelo. That's completely the wrong size, but hey ho. I got some sort of little bulb, what was it? Oh gosh, what were they called? I can't remember now, but it's flowered. I should draw it now. It's flowered. One of those sort of bulbs in a little glass jar. Yeah, so that's that sketchbook. And away from gouache, then I have I finished this sketchbook. I'm going to do another sketchbook tour. This is an abstract, and my sort of one that I only started recently, but it's not very big, so I kind of filled that up pretty quick. And I couldn't resist starting another altered abstract sketchbook. I'm just having real fun with these, and it works well because I'm getting back into gouache. I sometimes have gouache left over on a palette, and yes, I know, so you can reactivate it and keep it going. But then sometimes I use this up. I kind of like I keep the fresh stuff when I'm doing sort of landscape sketches. When I'm doing sort of more detailed, realistic work, then I kind of like it just fresh out of a tube. That's just my personal preference. I think when we start playing around with stuff, I think we all develop our current personal preferences for materials. Okay, I bit the bullet. After years of using very cheap sketchbooks, notebooks, recycling books, I thought, come on, let's use this mixed media sketchbook, a nice clear one, and let's do some abstract work in it. So I'm going to be interested. At the moment, I've got no plans to necessarily add collage. It may be just keep the sort of a painterly one, unless I muck it up, and then I'll collage over it for sure. Where did I put my, oops, that's very loud, wasn't it? But hey ho, I've got some gouache. Did I show? Yeah, gouache. I got, as I say, I don't know why, but for some reason I was just really wanting to, I think it's because I just need to get going with my nice art supplies, and so I decided to do mask off. I like to have a clear border in this particular sketchbook, and I used photos because it's very cold outside and I don't really want to. I'm quite happy painting in my space, my art space. So yeah, that sort of then led to, how about we try and do some build up to getting some works on paper, maybe even canvas though. I mean, I have got some Daniel Smith, what's it called, ground. So in theory, if I cover canvas, I could also have a go with gouache on canvases. But I just did a couple of small, keeping it small meant I could fit it in. So that was rather fun. And I think I prefer this one, so let's put that one on top. I have other stuff, but yeah, let's get on now to where I'm just going to talk about how to keep a sketchbook, because I feel it's a good topic that we all talk about, yet why is it quite hard at times? Anyway, let's go. Okay, so this first video is a complete gouache landscape process. It's in my Moleskine sketchbook, and yeah, this one, in terms of the subject of how to keep a sketchbook, it probably should be how to keep a number of sketchbooks. The thing that works in terms of finishing sketchbooks, making working sketchbooks, is having a few on the go at once, because I think, and I know I've talked about this before, but I do think there's something about not separating out your work in the sense that you don't worry about stuffing up a page in a sense, or that it doesn't flow, or a sketchbook isn't kind of sort of it's about knowing what do you want out of your journals and sketchbooks, and what sort of work you want to make. And if it's like, do you want to have, for example, an anything goes one, which I've talked about before, and for those ones I like to have, how I keep those ones is it can't be terribly expensive like this sketchbook. It's got to be a cheaper version, maybe like a Royal Talens, or even just like a cheap notebook you get. Blank, these sort of blank journals are fine for that purpose, because then you have no inhibitions from going from page to page, and you can write notes, you can do terrible sketches, or you could do fun doodles, or you could do and funnily enough, a lot of the time I end up with some of my favourite sort of line drawings or quick sketches of the kids, because there's just been no pressure in that sketchbook. Whereas this one I still love these to keep a more focused sketchbook, because then when I'm in that zone of wanting to do like this sort of work, like a painting, but I don't want to do it on paper, I still think some of my best gouache paintings are actually in sketchbooks. There's something about having this size, and I really like that masking off this border, because you get that nice clear edge when you tear off the masking tape. So it's got the sort of combination of freedom, but at the same sense, you know sort of what the outcome is you're aiming for. I know that I'm going to use, in this one, gouache, and I like to use it, as I said, out of a tube, because I love the consistency, that creamy, almost like years ago I did oil painting, and now I do paint with acrylics, but that kind of sort of creamy, buttery opaqueness, I think you can almost get with gouache. Even sometimes I think is a nicer effect than with other paints. So that's why I like to reserve, my sort of, most expensive sketchbook for this kind of work. And yeah, so in terms of the process here, just in case anyone's interested, I think there was a few process videos on these sort of landscapes before, but essentially, as you can see, I've just blocked out. I like to go in on a really faint sketch, because it's going to get covered up, just to map out areas where it should be. And then I like to go in with the paint thickly to fill it up, just get going, because I think that's, in terms of keeping a sketchbook, can be one of the biggest issues, is like procrastinating about the blank page, that sort of where to start. So once you get started, then it's like you're kind of like forced to carry on. So get the big sky in, get in the river colour, and then build it up. And there's also the knowledge with gouache. you know, you can go over. So the darks you can go over with lights, and light areas you can go over with dark. I used to use quite a lot of pencil in sketches, this sort of sketching. By the way, I've just noticed that my I thought I'd turned off autofocus on my new phone, but it still seems to be going in and out a bit. I'll look at that again, but hey ho, it is what it is. So yeah, so then I like to go in with I used to use pencil for the details, but this time round I'm trying to mostly keep it to painting, to be honest with you, and just try and just be a bit more delicate with a finer brush, and also actually maybe avoid too much detail as well, which is the other advantage of this method. So yeah, that's my approach to this sort of landscape. I also, just to say, do enjoy, you can do it on your, so this is, I use photo references, my photo references, and what I love is that I'm not a great photographer. My landscape photos, quite frankly, are often a little bit blurred, terribly boring, I don't know, not great. But I like the fact that they still capture an image when I've been running or I've been out and about with the kids or on a hike. There's still places that I know, and I like being able to sometimes increase the intensity of the colours or make them a bit more pretty, or go with palettes. You know, if I'm feeling like a particular palette, like adding some pinks into rocks. With this sort of landscape painting, I think you get to stylize it a little bit in a way that speaks to you as well. And that's half the fun. And yeah, a lot of it is practice. I've got some, you know, earlier ones where I started out and, you know, I've kind of found, as it were, sort of a style I like with these sort of landscapes. But I might change it up again. I don't like to stay too rigid. So yes, that is my approach to, I don't think there's anything else to really talk about with these sort of processes. I may be doing a workshop for the non-profit I work with. I was going to suggest actually maybe gouache landscapes as a topic, because I've been getting quite into them recently. And yeah, I think this is 40 minutes. I think it's also something quite that you can fit into your day. Okay, so that's one type of sketchbook. And then, yeah, as I said, I like to have personally other sketchbooks. I've got my Anything Goes journal. I like to keep abstract sketchbooks. You may have, if you've seen my other videos, you'll know I really like to keep abstract sketchbooks. This has been, and for me, in terms of how to keep a sketchbook, this is why it's important to maybe have to sort them into categories. For my own headspace, I think it's been helpful because, like, the abstract work does at times feel very different to this sort of work, to figurative art, and I like seeing. I think the nice thing with the sketchbook is that you can have progression. It's nice to see similar genres, but like, you know, you flick from page to page and there's something new, but it might be on the same subject. That maybe it's just the natural, like, because I don't know, sometimes as humans you want to like categorize things or sort things out. So it's like I've sorted out my brain space for doing abstracts, and then I get to see all my abstracts over time if I do date them. And it just feels like, okay, I'm in that frame. It's early mornings, for example. Early morning, as I've written an essay on this for Substack, but often I like to start with abstracts because I find them relaxing. It's a way of like a warm-up exercise for the day. It really helps get me into the creative zone. And even if I don't get back because of whatever reason, you know, like life, like I don't get back to doing any art for the rest of the day, it feels like I've done something fun, some fun and personal for myself. And it almost feels like a bit of a journal, because this sort of art here feels to me a little bit more, is good for you. It's more concentrated though. I am trying to get a scene down, and I am even keeping it to the right colours. I'm not really going, I guess I'm thinking about other things that I'm doing it, but it doesn't have the same, my mind isn't quite wandering in the same sense that it might be when I'm making an abstract, or even like someone's putting personal issues or dealing with personal issues that it's easier to do abstract mark making, weirdly enough for me. I think that helps get stuff out. But yeah, so the abstract, there will be actually the next, where am I at? The next process is in my altered abstract sketchbook. But I wanted to share this one because, well, one, I think I had some comments and people were like, oh, would you share your gouache landscape process? So I am. This is it. And yeah, also, I think in terms of the topic of keeping sketchbooks, it's good to have, I wanted to have two quite sort of different styles of you know, how you could approach it. Do let me know as well how you approach keeping sketchbooks. I feel like also there's a lot on, what's the other thing that I always see? Oh, it's hard to, the first page and the last page. It's often, I think, hard to start. So I would say, it varies from sketchbook to sketchbook, but I would say like often that first page, I have such low expectations. I'm just sort of flicking through. A lot of people I see do swatching or just little tiny doodles. I personally like to just get going, but I know that when I look at them, sometimes they're not the best. The first page isn't the best, but as long as it's got something going. Again, though, I have actually got sketchbooks which do have swatches as well. But it's almost like if you think that first page, and also because it tends to be maybe half a page, you can like just do, I don't know, maybe do a border around it. Just do some simple exercises like where you limit to 3 colours and you do a quick sketch, or you just do a master copy. Like I think copying from masters is also a good way sometimes of getting started, because you've got an image, someone else has done it, but you can play around. Like how can you, for example, sketch the image that they've rendered, but make it even break down the elements. It may even become abstracted. So those are all ideas just to get going. I think once you're through that, if you can just make a start, then I feel, and you get to know how that particular sketchbook is going to unfold, it's easier to keep going. And yeah, if you ever find that you've got a bit precious on a sketchbook and you're like, oh, I want to make some art, but I don't want to, that page before was so good, I don't want to follow up with something bad. That could be the time to get out maybe you're in the zone to have an anything goes journal, to just or draw on paper, make a drawing on paper. If it's going well, stick it in the sketchbook and then carry on from that piece of paper, if that makes sense. So collaging in drawings often works for me as well, because for whatever reason I might be too hesitant. I mean, it sounds silly, but I just, like I'll make a quick line drawing on a cheap piece of drawing paper, but I'll really like it. So then if I plonk it into the sketchbook, it's like it can grow, I can carry on from there. Or I see a lot of artists as well, and I think I've done this in the past, where you just splodge on, make a splodge, make a mark, lay something down. Collage, any sorts of collage as well. It doesn't have to be a drawing. If you're doing a figurative art sketchbook, a little bit of collage can just be a jumping off point in terms of a palette, in terms of evoking a mood, especially if you're just going to keep to one tone for your drawing. And I guess with it being, well, nearly the end of the year, it's always a good time to reflect and sort of think, what do you want more of and what do you want less of? So looking through your old sketchbooks, as in your work, is, that's the thing, I like to sometimes look through my own work, because then it's helpful to see like what I was doing before. Sometimes it reminds me, like, oh, those are really nice drawings. Why don't I sort of do more gouache observational sketches of arranging, I remember I did, one of my favourite sketches I ever did was like just some bows. I tied up some ribbons into bows, or there were bow hair clips, and there was a spool of cotton, and I just made, they're all pastely pink, and it really worked well. You see painted collections, like collection's always quite fun. But, you know, going back through your own work can like trigger ideas for future sketchbook topics, and also they can show you what. Sometimes I think you can look through sketchbooks and be like, oh, I remember doing that. I don't like that. That sketch was hard and it was frustrating. I didn't really enjoy drawing, I don't know, cars in that landscape. I mean, it's not to say that one shouldn't practice, and at times, look, I get it's like if you want to get better at anything, you've got to put in the effort. But on the whole, especially going back to a daily practice, if you want to do something every day, I do think, and this isn't like your regular, you know, this is your personal project, this isn't your job, like an illustration gig, then actually there has to be, I think you've got to have to identify what brings you, you know, what brings you joy, what brings you pleasure, or what is even sort of therapeutic for you, like it's going to be something that's helpful. And get you motivated to want to make more art, make more work, or just satisfaction. I think I do, looking back at some of the sketchbooks, I'm like, oh, I probably could recycle those. I try not to be attached to any of my art, to be honest with you, that sounds really bad, doesn't it? But like, you know, it's in the process, but they are, when I look back at, for example, this Moleskine, I've gone on to the abstract process now. I should talk about that, shouldn't I? But just to finish up with regards to the gouache landscapes, looking for those, they're like, oh yeah, it makes me want to do more landscapes and even get out, do a little bit of plein air sketching. So, and it reminds me of, you know, memories from hikes, I can tell the different countries, the seasons. So yeah, they are quite, that's just an idea for more landscape sketches. Okay, abstract sketchbooks, as I am now working on, and this is sort of near the end of this video. So these are great because, as you can see, that other process was a bit more, I'd say, takes longer, a little bit more, I give care to abstracts as well, but it's a different kind of working. That's pretty obvious. This sort of a journal or altered book project is really good for just letting go, and also you might want to keep this sort of a project. I share it, rightly or wrongly, but it might be a sort of a project that you keep to yourself, because it's a really great space to allow yourself to be uninhibited, to not have any, you know, everyone talks about process, but the reason is because that's, if you take the whole mindfulness and you're in the present, it's really being present in this sort of art making is really, I find it really relaxing, and I find it a really good way of just getting out, making something like the colours, and how do I sort of bring it all together, or how do I even destroy it in terms of, can I like push, ones if I really go over the top, ones if I keep things so minimal that I wouldn't normally do this, I would never do this necessarily in my Moleskine sketchbook, because I've spent, this page takes me like, I don't know, about 10 minutes. And it would feel like if I worked out how much, I could easily, the problem is with the Moleskine sketchbooks, I could easily fill them up and go through them, you know, quite quickly, which is why for this sort of work, I love a big, thick, altered book. I love cheaper sketchbooks, because then I feel at ease being kind of like my scatty, prolific artist self. And yet I get some quite, what I personally find, I get some quite cool results. Some days I don't, some days it's just a hot mess. But yeah, that is for me, in essence, the sort of joy of keeping a sketchbook as well, like the finding out. Okay, so this video is coming to the end. I hope you've made some art or making art. And yeah, let me know. I don't know what your goals are if you have goals for next year or what you're working on. But whatever it is, I hope that, yeah, you're enjoying some creative time. Yeah, thank you for watching. And I will look forward to seeing you in another video. And yeah, I'm terrible at ending these videos. I'm dating it now. Okay, I'm going to say goodbye. Bye.